But if you have a family, you have responsibilities. You have to do the responsibilities. And yet, you have to be a spiritual person. And then that means you are a successful and a balanced person. That's when you will progress fast. Actually, you'll progress faster when you have all these responsibilities. If we can't, logically, if we can't control our body, how are we to control our mind?
Join us in the realm of holistic human, where we explore the essential elements that empower us to flourish, revealing our hidden potential and nurturing our growth.
So welcome everyone to the Holistic Human podcast. Today we have the great pleasure of having Dr. Karshini with us today. Dr. Karshini, she is a clinical microbiologist. She's also a yoga teacher and a philanthropist. And most importantly, I am proud that she is my medical school coursemates, batch of MD UKM 2011. Woo!
Yeah.
Did I miss anything, Karshini?
No, I think that's a beautiful introduction, and thank you, Kuan Yu, actually for inviting me in your podcast. I think it's a great opportunity for both of us to talk about spirituality rather than medicine.
Yes, indeed. And we can talk a little bit about medicine also, but then it will be a more, I would say, a more refined form. So I met Kashini during my medical school years in UKM. We were batchmates from 2006 to 2011. And were we together in any PBL group or
Yeah,
anything?
we were same PBL, first year and second year.
First year, second year, right? With Zite and Ru Hui, right?
We were with that, and Saiful, I think we were with Saiful.
Oh, I see. Cool. Your memory very good. I can't remember already. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And after you grad, what was your track?
So after I graduated, I was a houseman in JB,
Uh-huh.
and I became a medical officer in surgery department for 6 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah, but I realized that you can't be a surgeon because I wanted my 8 to 5, and after 5, I wanted to have a life. So then I requested to go into pathology.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I was only in patho for 6 months. Then my HOD asked me to apply master. Then I got my master straight in. So I was 4 years in KL.
Mm.
Then Sabah, there was a reason why I was posted to Sabah. So
What was the
I
reason?
don't know. I had a lot of time to reflect on many things about life. I think when you don't have anyone around you, that's when I understood like nature will be there for you.
Yeah. Yes. You had a lot of excursions during your time in Sabah.
I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, with nature, more with nature, but I realized nature can be a good healer.
Yes. I've been recently like chatting with Darren. He's the founder of the Forest School movement in Singapore. And that day we were chatting, and then he says that I asked him, so what's the essence of 7 years of running Forest School in Singapore? Then he says that what are we doing? We are actually, through nature, we are preventing children from committing suicide. And it just drop a ton of bricks like that. But apparently that's the impact and significance of what they do. And it's not only just for the kids. Sometimes the facilitators and the teachers, they themselves, because of the process of facilitating, they save themselves from depression. They save themselves from whatever situation that they were in. So nature is indeed healing.
Now I'm a specialist back in.
I see. Will you be subspecializing?
I'm actually in department of parasitology. UN has two departments, microbe is separate and parasite is separate.
Oh.
So I'm in department of parasitology currently.
I see. Okay. And my track would be after graduating, I delayed my housemanship for 6 months. And then me and Ruhui, we went to New Zealand. Then we came back. Then I forced Ruhui to choose Sabah with me. And then we got KK. And then we stayed in KK for 2 years. Then she's under the UKM scholarship actually. Then she went back to KL first. Then Ichiban, I go and request for Lahat Batu because there was the Sulu incursion. And then I went there in October. The second invasion was supposed to happen in Christmas, but then it didn't happen. So after 4 months, I got transferred back to Mengikut Istri to go back to KL. Yeah. Then in KL, I was in Sedang from 2014 to 2015. Then I had my first quarter life crisis. Then I went cycling in South America. Then I quit my job during my trip in South America. Then I came back. Then I was in a Medisquare clinic near KLCC. I was doing medicine and acupuncture at the same time because I followed the calling that sort of came into me during my trip in South America. But then, complex long story, 2016, I came to Singapore. And then, so I've been here for 7+ years now. Then in the same department for 7+ years. Then I left. Then I joined a private medical chain called Raffles. Then before I finished my probation, I left again. And then starting my current venture or my current calling, which is holistic human. And yeah, that's why we are here today and talking about this, just to fill in the gaps of where, like, what happened in the past 13 years and how I got reconnected back to Karshini, or when I started paying attention to what Karshini was doing, when I saw her doing all sorts of asanas and getting more and more higher level, more tougher and tougher asanas. And so, Karshini, I'm very curious, what brought you into yoga?
Actually, it's not what brought me into yoga. Yoga came into my life.
Wow, okay.
Before this, actually, since small, I'm exposed to spirituality. So I have been searching for a lot of answers. That's why I travel a lot. And my mother does yoga actually, but I never saw her physically doing yoga. So I always felt yoga was for the soft people, with the acro yoga and all the music. But when the pandemic happened in 2019, I felt like I was trapped because for me, traveling and finding answer was the only way for me to read. That was my seeking. That's how I could find a peace within myself. I still remember that night. I think after 2 weeks of MCO, I was trapped alone in KL. I was lying on the bed looking at the fan, and I have a picture of a guru. So I was just telling him, find me something, just find me something to occupy myself because I can't meditate. My mind will be still wandering while I'm trapped in four walls. So the next day, actually, we were working because of COVID, right? So then I was just looking through my Instagram. Coincidentally, my master, which is Master Anuradha from Shakti School of Yoga, she came into my Instagram page. So then I saw it was yoga and it was virtual. So it was easy for me since it's virtual, right? So that's when I messaged and immediately I joined yoga. From there, it started. And of course, the instruction was from it's virtual. So it was more of yourself putting a lot of effort. Of course, she's a great teacher, definitely for me. She's one of the best teachers. She's the best teacher for me. But it was a lot of your own effort. You have to practice. Initially, it was just physical changes. But after 6 months, I felt like I wanted to know more about yoga. Because I was more into Buddhism, things were more religious voice rather than about yoga itself. And we know yoga when I took the teacher's training course with Master S.K. Dure. So he's the head of Shakti School of Yoga. And then from there, I got to know a lot of things. It's just not about asana, but more depth into it. And from there, I graduated to be a teacher, and currently I'm sharing.
Beautiful. I just want to cycle back to where you mentioned where your method of seeking meaning was actually through traveling. And for me, when I travel, that's when I get to reinstate my belief in humanity. It's because each time I travel, and it's usually slow travel where I begin living like a local, and that's when I see the beauty and the love of humanity and how beautiful it is. And if we just read the headlines on newspapers, it's always sensation, and it's usually the bad news that grabs the attention. Good news is not attractive, and sometimes when you live in those four walls, or when you don't have a very good, not to say good or bad, but then your social circle is not the one that uplifts you, then you go into this sort of mini spiral. And then when you get to step out and see the world, and then you, for me, travel slowly, then I get to be in touch again with humanity. And that's how it works for me. So I totally understand what you mean. And some people find their spirituality through asceticism. Some people find it through devotion. Some of them find it through service. And some find it through traveling and experiencing the world and all its wonder. Yeah, nicely described. And just to let you know, I also did Iyengar yoga for about 4 months. Back in 20 with Rohui together. We were in the is it Taman Desa? There's a Iyengar center over there. And then we love the place, we love the teacher. And I always remember what my teacher said. Imagine a rope tying your hair straight to the ceiling and keep your posture like that. Still remember what she says until now. And yeah, it definitely helped me with my back pain. But as you said, understanding yoga could be superficial and it's just the asanas. It's actually the preliminary step. And then the yoga is what it yokes the mind. And maybe you'd like to elaborate more on that. Yeah.
So actually, yoga, there's many forms of yoga, but I'll just talk in brief. What I'm practicing is Hatha yoga. So forcefully, or rather like exertion. That means you're exerting something, which is actually your body. So Hatha yoga is using your body to control the state of your mind to actually find your true nature. So there is this scripture actually, most whichever branch of yoga you are, whether Kriya yoga, Hatha yoga. So there's so many type of yoga, right? The basic of one scripture is called Yoga Sutra of Patanjali.
Pathology, yeah.
Even if you hear his first chapter itself, the first verse itself is second verse actually. Atta yoga chitta vritti nirodha tadadrastu swarupi avasthanam. That means yoga is to stop the fluctuation of your mind. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha tadadrastu swarupi avasthanam. Only then can you see your true nature. So only when you stop your mind will you know your true nature. It's even in that is the first two lines of that book, which will convince you, okay, that means I'm in the correct track. I know you got the answer in the first page itself. You just have to follow through what he has asked you to.
Yeah, I actually feel that from my personal experience, in which like my second, I don't know which number, but one of the major portals for me into spirituality was actually Vipassana. So I think the first stage was the Abhidhana, or I could be using the wrong term, correct me if I'm wrong. Abhidhana is where you cannot change your posture for the hour that you are meditating, excruciating in the beginning. And what was fascinating for me was during this I think it was day 4, day 4 out of the 10 days. And then when the pain score was like 9 out of 10 already, right? And then it's, oh, when will the bell of release ring? I can't stand it anymore, and you're almost at the verge of giving up. Then suddenly you break through this layer of consciousness where suddenly the pain gets cut off 50%. And then at that point, it's like, where is this place, man? I've never come to this state of mind before. And then you start to realize that, oh, there are so many layers of the mind. And then that was like one of the glimpses where our consciousness could be. Yeah, and that was actually mind-blowing for me. How was it for you?
No, I mean, for me, if you ask me to sit and meditate, it's going to be very difficult, because for me to sit and just meditate for a very long period, my mind will definitely wander. What in Hatha Yoga, it's called moving meditation. So when you are doing asana, for example, in that movement, actually you are bringing all your awareness to one pointedness. So that's where your mind becomes still. So that gives you peace actually. For me, it's a silence. It's a that space where there is silence, there's nothing. And you just want to stay there. Actually, when you start to enjoy that, you feel like you want to stay there and withdraw from everything. In reality, you can't do that.
I get what you mean, because when people meditate, some people meditate using a mantra, some people meditate using anchoring their breath, some people meditate by looking at the candle flame, and in true yoga is meditating on the posture or the focus on the muscle group, and that's where you get your point of focus, and then you don't lose your mind on. So is that a way to describe it?
So it's actually Hatha Yoga. We have another which is called Ashtanga Yoga. So if BKS Iyengar has his own way, so there's another one called BNS Iyengar and all that. So according to my teacher, which is he's through BNS Iyengar, so we do Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga is like a fixed postures that you will do for 1 hour. So it'll be like few postures that you keep doing. So there is a lot of things in that flow is fixed. So what you do is you also have your postures, specific breath you're supposed to do, and point of gazing. So you have to gaze in certain location when you're doing each posture. So by the time you finish the asana, actually there's nothing in your mind, because at the end you will sit to contemplate. So there is nothing, because one is you're very tired of doing all the asana, but along the way you will realize, if you look at your hand now, we are looking it so physical, but as you keep practicing, you will feel the flow of energy in your body.
Yes.
And that's when it starts to penetrate even deeper and deeper. If we can't, logically, if we can't control our body, how are we to control our mind? So that's what Hatha Yoga is. Of course, it's not just asana, there's also pranayama and many concentration technique that comes along in yoga. But for me, asana is like the first step. If you can make yourself there, pranayama, of course, we do everything simultaneously, right? Combination of both will lead you to dharana, which is concentration.
I see. And since you mentioned pranayama, I just want to ask, do you have a favorite pranayama technique that you use?
I usually practice, they call it Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So actually Nadi Shodhana, Nadi is your Nadi's subtle
channels.
channel of energies that you can't see, and Shodhana is a purification. So you purify the channels so that the flow of your energy moves throughout your body. It's actually the only pranayama, I guess, that every scriptures in yoga, it's mentioned. The yogis of last time, I think they practice that before they go into other techniques, because you have to purify your channels before you allow your flow. You have to purify your body before you want to go into meditation. You want the flow of energy to go throughout your body.
I see. And what about, do you use Bhastrika, and what does it do for you?
Okay, so like Bhastrika, they have, each pranayama has its own benefit. Like Bhastrika, Kapalabhati, there's many pranayama. If you see, each of them have their pros and cons and their purpose for it. But again, for me, it's still Nadishwana. I mean, when you start practicing Nadishwana, when you consistently do it, you would feel the changes in your body.
I see. When I investigated this alternate nostril breathing, I do come across where, some of the yogis, they will plug one of their nostrils with honeycomb. I think it's to activate the right brain, then they'll plug the left nostril for 2 years. Have you heard of that?
No, I never heard of that. Usually they have is something called danda. So danda is the thing that they put in their hand and they hold, so that they hold their chant. They will chant something. What happens is when they use that, it's believed that we can manipulate. If you realize we are breathing, one will be predominant and then your nostril will alternate after 90 seconds to the other, right? They use that to manipulate their breath. So that is how they use that will hold their arm to control, because the channel is associated under the armpit. So you can manipulate your nostril.
Wow, that's interesting. I think I would like to try that. Okay.
But you have to have guidance.
Yes, ma'am. I think you mentioned it, but if I may ask a little bit more, it's like, what do you love most about yoga?
What I love most of is I have explored so many things, but I feel everything is a bit complicated for me. Yoga is simplified, it's straightforward, and it's actually very cost effective. All you need is your body. So that's what I think makes me love yoga. You just bring your body everywhere and you do it. I used to do a lot of things. No, really, I used to. One way it was traveling. Another way is I always like to push the limit of my body. So I feel like I do diving, I do skydiving, and all that is to just what else I can do with my body. I just try to experiment that gives adrenaline rush. But I found that that's all money. But when I'm doing like just using your body, you can feel all that feeling. You don't need to waste your money. So it's just there. It's just your body. So that is one thing. I think I found my answer in yoga.
I see. I want to high five you on the pushing the body to its limits in a way. I always felt that the human body has so much potential and certain people can push it to the max. And some of these people are the break dancers, can just use one arm and then they can support the whole body weight, and then the intense control, the fluidity of movement. And then that's why I went to learn breakdancing in the second year of medical school. Then after that, then it became parkour. Parkour became a movement. Then during my housemanship, I went to learn. Then after that, more recent times is that, oh, I start seeing like people like Fu Hui, right? Triathlon, but I couldn't. But during these past few years, and it sort of resurfaced, and then I start getting to know 6-time Ironman, and then there are people who do overnight trail runs, like 70 km trail runs over 3,000 meters of elevation. And these are the people who are working in my hospital. I'm like, these people are really interesting. What can I learn from them? And indeed, they have, I think, everything. Once you reach a certain level in whatever activity or pursuit that you do, it all ties back to wisdom, spirituality, life philosophy. And I think that's really beautiful. Sorry, I think I must have distracted. Maybe you can share like, what are your biggest lessons that you've learned through yoga as a student and as a teacher? Yeah.
I just consider myself sharing the art, the capabilities of what I can, and just sharing. Of course, yoga, I think if you are a teacher, then you have certain standard and expectation. I'm not in that level yet. I'm just sharing the art of yoga. The biggest lesson, I always want to run away from the worldly life. I want to go to Himalayas and just stay there, away from human being and all these problems. And just, I want to see God. And that's what I have been like trying to find since I think. So, but in reality, you can't do that, right? As a human being, we are born with a lot of responsibility. Once you're a human being, you have responsibility, you have duty. We get entangled with the worldly life so much that it affects our spiritual life. But as I've been practicing, like I said, when I went to Sabah was the moment where I learned a lot. I realized that if you just put yourself back and observe things, there's always a dance of opposite. If you have pleasure, you have pain. If you have sadness, you have happiness. There's morning, there's night. There's good, there's bad. So when will this cycle stop? You can't stop this cycle. But at the end, you only can be in the middle. That means you are there, you are doing whatever you can as a role, whatever role that is given to you, you are doing it. But you're not attached to the outcome of whatever situation that is. When there is attachment towards something, that's when it becomes a disappointment towards us. So the best is, they usually, if you read Bhagavad Gita and everything, what they say is, do your duty accordingly, but don't worry about the consequences of your action. Of course, it's very easy to say, but to apply it is going to be difficult. But there's a method that I think it helps. Whatever you do in the name of God. So, for example, now we are talking. Whatever I'm talking is also in the name of God. Yeah, it's through Him that we are discussing this. Hopefully, somebody benefits. So, whatever actions we are doing, we just give it back to God. It's through Him that we are doing this. So we don't get disappointed or attached to it. We just do our best in whatever we can. The lesson I learned throughout these 4 years practicing yoga.
Wow, 4 years. Okay, thanks for sharing your wisdom and getting closer to divinity, God or source, right? I would lay down this challenge and say that see you at Mount Kailash someday. Yeah,
Okay,
see you there
we will
someday.
see each other.
Physically or non-physically, yeah? That's the challenge.
we will wait and see.
Yes,
The
you will.
universe heard it.
Setting the intention. Yeah. And not every yoga practitioner becomes a teacher or yoga sharer, as you would be preferred to be known. And so what drives you in this sense?
Actually, I'm a practitioner, more of a practitioner than a teacher. First is because my teacher told me I have to teach, because I am in depth with my teacher, master. If it's not their compassion and kindness, because they really taught the meaning of yoga by in depth. So if it's not because of someone's generosity of sharing that knowledge, I wouldn't have got it. So that's what I felt. If I could share to even a few people, and it can uplift them in their spiritual life, or at least to make sure that their daily life goes well, then that's the reason I think why I wanted to share.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's like passing the baton and then in a way paying it forward also, right? For the people who lend us a hand, and then we could see glimpses of hope, clarity, spirituality, and then it's like, now what can we do to pass the lessons on? Beautiful. Yeah. And I think this is where we come to a bit more heavy lifting. The topic is, what does spirituality mean to you?
It's actually finding your true self.
Finding your true self. Okay. And go on.
I mean, that's all my answer. Finding your true self. We always ask, we always read. It's easy to read books and they say you are God, everyone is God. I mean, everyone is projection of God. So you and I are same, I and you are same. I mean, it's very easy to read, but to apply it, it's a bit difficult. We still have the duality. That means it's me and it's you. So we are all still in the work of progress. So first, I need to find the true self. Who am I? Then only I can actually see that like the divinity in you is same as me. So that's what I'm working on. So that's what spirituality is to me.
And to see that divinity in you is the term Om Namah Shivaya. Is that the one, or there's a different one?
No, Om Namah Shivaya is actually you're just chanting the name of Shiva.
Oh.
Actually, it's the sound projection of universe. When if you chant Om, you're actually chanting the sound of, it's not a religion or anything, it's just the sound of universe. That is God's projection in a sound. That is like all this Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Narayana, or Hare Rama, Hare Krishna is another way of yoga. They are more into chanting and going into the spiritual. They are through chanting.
I see.
Japa. They call it japa.
Japa. Oh, okay. Sorry, my thoughts. I little bit ADHD, so my thoughts a bit here and there. So just circling back to just now when you talk about the duality, the pain, the pain and pleasure and things like that. And then the word that came out to me was John Kabat-Zinn's words. He is like the proponent of MBSR movement. So he says that we can't stop the waves in our lives, but we can learn to surf. And I think that's beautiful. It's like being present at the moment and just go with the flow of the waves and learning to surf. Yeah. So there's that. And then I come back.
What it means by living the moment. We are so into the future or the past, but that's what I mean, summary of what you're trying to say.
Yes. And if I were to offer my view of spirituality, I think it keeps on evolving for me. And now I probably have 4 different segments to it. One is that my relationship with myself. 2 is my relationship with the higher power, higher consciousness, source, divinity, God. Is like connection to nature, the people and the world around us. And also finding the reason for being, finding the reason why we are here, what are we meant to do in this life. And another part is like making sense of things, making sense of events in our life, and progressing from, I think it was Reverend Michael Beckwith who said this. For him, there are 4 levels of spiritual awakening. Level 1 is things are happening to me. And then where there is this blame, there is this, oh, woe is me, I'm so bad luck. Why should this happen to me? Why am I the bad chosen one? And then at level 2 is things are happening for me. That's where you look at life events and then you realize that, oh, this thing actually led to my growth. Whatever setbacks, whatever painful memories, it led to me digging deeper and finding out who I am or what I have within me, and then emerging stronger and bringing those lessons and giving it back to the world. And then level 3 is things are happening by me, whereby you become an agent of flow, that things happening through us. We are giving up control, because the level 2 is things are happening for me, it's happening for our evolution. And sometimes there is this level of control where I want to hold on to this, I have power over this. Level 1 is giving up power, and it's like blame, and then you give up all your personal power. Level 2, some people hold on to that. Level 3 is like giving away the control, and then things are happening through me. And then at the highest level, level 4 for him, it's things are happening as me. And then I think spirituality to me is also like going through these stages and then developing the art of learning. And second part is the art of letting go. Yeah, and that's what it was for me. Does any of that make sense? Because usually
actually makes sense. Ask this. I mean, that's why I say yoga already gave me the answer. So I'm just working to find myself. If you ask me why it's happening, and of course we ask, why is it me? Why is it me? It's all because of you. It's no one else. It's your own actions that is causing all this. That is one thing we have to accept. I'm not sure if you believe in reincarnation, but of course in yoga we are in the cycle of birth and death. How many births we have taken, but all the actions and consequences of last births are the one or current birth, whatever actions that we did. So all the actions, be it good or bad, is what we are facing. Is why if you say why is it me, it's because of your own actions actually that is causing it. So that's when you will go to stage 2. Stage 2 is to me, is it? What
happening for me.
Happening for me. Though if it's a bad thing that is happening to you, but every bad thing God is kind because He's a very neutral person. Nothing He did. It's all your own actions that caused it, right? But he's very kind that even though it's a very bad thing, because maybe of your something bad you have done. So every action has its consequences, right? So if it's a bad action, the bad consequences you would receive it, the nature of the law of nature. But he's kind in a way that he will make sure that you learn something out of it. You will grow from it. It's not going to be something that is going to put you down. So it's going to grow from you. And then comes the third stage where you understand that all these actions, all these things that are happening in my life is because of me. So you'll become more conscious of your actions actually. And you will accept everything as it is. That means whatever that is happening to me, be it good or bad, it's supposed to happen in such a way. When you surrender, that means you are surrendering, total surrender to everything that is happening towards you. That's when you go to your stage 4, where you understand that you and everything is actually one.
Different ways to look at it, but it comes beautiful. Thanks for that. This is where we tread a little bit into the woo-woo world. Yeah, what spirituality means to me, a part of it is like understanding our biofield, our subtle energy bodies, and it is rare to have this conversation. So I'll just put everything aside and then just mention it as though it's common knowledge and everyone has it. So it was during my Vipassana that I first experienced the microcosmic orbit, which is in the Chinese TCM, it was the governing meridian, and also the Tu Mai and Re Mai, when it connects, then this energy flow that goes around in a circle from the top of the head to the belly button, out from the perineum and going back up to the head again. And then it's also the first time I experienced, I think it was 3 to 4 different chakras in me. And then during this phase, I'm actually doing spiritual mentoring, where I'm actually teaching my mentees to cultivate their energetic body for health and also for honing their intuition. I wonder if brought this aspect to you as well.
Because like Kriya yoga is more associated with, because I'm practicing Hatha yoga, so it's a bit more different. We don't much focus on chakra, but I have been practicing Kundalini meditation before I joined yoga. So from the age of 18, actually, until before yoga, like I mentioned, I was doing
a lot of different things.
But I was still practicing Kundalini meditation from 18 until before yoga. But of course, I didn't understand what I was doing. I was initiated in Kundalini. So I do feel sensations.
Initiation meaning Shaktipat?
No, initiation of the Kundalini, like not awakening, but just to open up the channel so that whenever you meditate, you feel that sensation.
I see. It was opened by a guru.
Yeah, he's the guru who I mentioned to save me in the yoga during pandemic. That's when yoga came in.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so currently I do meditate. My meditation, because there's a lot of time for meditation. But there is, like when there is no confusion of thought, I have felt a lot of presence. You feel that presence within you. That's something I cannot describe, but that you can feel something. I can't describe, but there's moment of blissfulness when it's a beautiful meditation. It'll be a moment of blissfulness.
Yes.
When the day is bad, it's very difficult for me to meditate. But when everything goes smooth, that moment when I feel peace, actually, not bliss in a sense that silence gives you the bliss. It's just silence, actually. It's just there's nothing. It's just silence. There's nothing. There's no I can't say there's no thought. If I say silence, I can't say even silence, then I have thoughts. So it's very difficult to describe what I feel. Describe actually. Can't put in words.
This space of, some people find it during their dives because the sound is isolated and then you are like in
You're just there.
Yeah, yes. And some people find it during their runs. After 10-20 minutes into their run, then they drop into that state. And I think in Buddhism, there is like the 9 different jhanas of meditation, right? So at different levels, there are different ways to describe it. Then at one level is the absence of thoughts, and then the other, and then there's higher and higher, and then it depends like your cultivation and then which level you can arrive at. But that takes an entire lifetime. Yeah, which is quite interesting. And I just want to bring up here that thanks for being here. Then I could say all these things that I couldn't say before. But as in when I first experienced this microcosmic orbit, right? And then I experienced the pulsating pools of energy within me. I didn't know what it was or where did it come from. And I was questioning my experience, and then like medical, skeptical, logical. What is this? Never mentioned in textbook. And then what do I do with it? And I was like, first thing is I want to experiment. Then I calculated this pulse that goes around my body. Then I noted that, the frequency is 42 cycles per minute. Then I checked my heartbeat. Oh, it's actually 84. So it's not the same thing. Then I realized that, this thing is actually, you can calculate it. Then it gives me a bit more tangibleness to it. But then it's something I kept inside because it's very hard, nobody understands. And then it was not until like recently when I started this spirituality mentoring thing, and then when I could see the same thing developing in other people, sensing the energy feeling. Then this guy who told me that, during my meditation, I saw this snake at my root chakra, and then I never fed him any information about that, and it came out spontaneously during his meditation, and I said that this stuff is real, man. And then when I saw auras, I questioned myself. But then when I trained some people and then they could do it, and I said that, it's real, let me go back to the practice. And then it's very strong validation that actually all of us have this. It's like how much we spend time to cultivate it and have the space, because now we are all dug deep into the materialistic world that all these things not important because there's no immediate outcome to it. And it's sad actually. Yeah, you have any thoughts on what I just said, the crazy things I just said?
The aura, actually, the energy, everything is energy. Everything is energy. Even the chair is an energy, the laptop is, everything is energy.
Yes.
But again, like you said, it's very hard. If you read, they say this is Kali Yuga. Yuga means it's the most peak level of like materialistic world, war and everything. So they call it the Yuga. There's 4 types of Yuga. So Kali Yuga is the peak of all the bad things a world can have. So this is what we are actually moving. We are moving towards a better Yuga back. It's a cycle. So we're going back slowly to a better Yuga. But it's according to scripture, we are in Kali Yuga. So the state of mind of a human being is as such that he will be attached to more than spiritual during this Yuga. So that's why there is many others, like they say, do chanting, because you can't sit and meditate. Your state of mind is not as such. So at least by chanting the name of God, you will be at least closer to God. It's like a 1 step closer. So they found many other methods to help during this peak of this. But if you go back to Sattvic is when human mind was at the peak consciousness and they were very spiritual in that level. They all are most likely highly evolved beings. And so we are in this Yuga. So I understand when you say this, because even if I talk about this to my parents, then they'll be like, you're only 37 years old, what are you talking? And not married and all this. But again, it's hard to convince certain things to people.
Yeah.
But at least let's way that, we are successful both, not just in spiritual, but in worldly life. Because I feel when you're successful in worldly life, people will want to listen to you. Then you can talk about spirituality to them.
That's true. Slightly unfortunate, but definitely true.
But this is how it is currently. If you're someone, then people will listen. But if you're just going to be like talking about spirit, unless they are true seekers, then definitely with your energies, definitely you're going to attract more people. It's always energy related. So if people are seeking something and you have the answer, definitely they will come to you.
Your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned a lot of very deep thoughts that I'm still passing through them. And this yuga, which is a cycle, like a period of time, and then we'll be cycling through. So in Chinese metaphysics, also April 2024 is also the 20-year feng shui cycle. Is we are entering the last 20 years from 2024 to 2043. This is the end of 9 different 20-year cycles, a 180-year cycle. And then here is the most tumultuous. A lot of things were going to happen in these 2 decades before the beginning of a new 180-year cycle. So there is like some matching in there also. And going back when you asked me, do I believe in reincarnation? I do. And also that, although some people may say that, oh, this only exists in Hinduism, but in Buddhism, some people actually don't use this term. There is no soul. But then today I was like, if we dive into the Christian Gnostics, there's actually wisdom there also. Then there's also a period of time and a series of didactic lectures which actually mentioned this part, but then it was lost to time after this period when these documents were selectively I don't want to offend anyone, so I probably stop here. But yeah, yeah, but you probably get my drift. Yeah, so this is interesting. And I think this, I just want to bring out that I've been talking about this thing for about 3 weeks now, where I've been saying that consciousness, spirituality, and the understanding of the world we live in. Initially, I thought it's like a 9-phase Rubik cube, 3 by 3, right? And then when I thought I figured that out, then it became a 16-piece 4 by 4 Rubik cube. When I thought I figured that out, then it turns out it's actually a 5 by 5, a 25-piece phase Rubik cube. And today in the train before our session today, I saw this guy holding a 5 by 5 Rubik cube, and then the colors are aligned. And I saying, what does this mean? And then yeah, and there's just some synchronicities happening that is happening more frequent and more intense than usual, that I feel that something's coming up recently. I don't know, we shall see in the coming days. And the next question that I have would be, when I mentioned the word holistic human, what image does it conjure for you? Just a curious thought.
For me, is like I mentioned, if you're a holistic human being, you're a person who is successful both in your worldly and spiritual life.
That's a nice way to put it.
That is a holistic human.
And being here in this world and not being a monastic where we can just focus on our spirituality 100%, we have to one foot in the material and one foot in the spiritual. And if you're able to find that balance, and then
I forgot the word balance. You have to balance both and be successful in both.
Do you think that's a tall order?
That is an order. We have no choice. We have to accept that we can't. We are not the yogis. We are not the monks that were given. Monks, maybe when they are born, they were sent. So it's a different thing. But if you have a family, you have responsibilities. You have to do the responsibilities. And yet, you have to be a spiritual person. And then that means you are a successful and a balanced person. That's when you will progress fast. Actually, you'll progress faster when you have all these responsibilities. It's very easy if we say we run away and we try to sit in the cave and meditate and say rich. But if you never encounter all these problems, you will never learn the lessons. You will never get frustrated. You will never ask questions. You will never find more seeking. So you will never progress faster. So I believe that if you can balance yet be successful in both of these, you will progress fast in whatever that you're saying.
Wow, that's a very nice perspective. I never thought about it that way. I thought that those who are monastics or monks, they have the cheat code because they can devote all the time to this, and then it's not fair. But now that you put it this way, it makes it really interesting.
No, I'm not like against the.
I know.
Of course, it's a choice. It's a choice. If can, of course, all of us will do that. I will do that. You will do that. But again, it will become a sin for us because we have responsibility. We just left it all halfway to seek spirituality. You will never achieve your self-realization because you have done a bad action. You have hurt people. That action will still come back to you. So you will still come back to the cycle of life and death again until you sort all these things. So why you want to come back again and again? Solve everything now and then settle it.
Yeah, but I totally like how you say that being one foot in this material is actually to experience those things will actually make us progress and learn faster. And that's a very nice thought, reassuring thought actually to me. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. And yeah, and this part is where I know you're running some philanthropic movements and it's called Anukase. Would you like to share with us more about that?
I like to do social service. So I have done many social service since Mercy, and then I've done few in Johor itself. But it's always I've been working with, so like I said, Sabah was where I realized that maybe it's about time I create an NGO.
Oh.
No, it's always difficult when you work with, and when you work for people, it becomes they have certain bureaucracy. You can't do things that you want to do. So rather than I have to go and search for opportunity, why not I create my own opportunity? And another thing is the reason the name Anukase is actually whatever that I do, I give it back to my teacher. My teacher's name is Master Anuradha. So the Anu is to her. So whatever that it comes, I give it back to her in that way because usually I will do her birthday celebration. So she made me promise that no more birthday celebration, but every year for her birthday, I should do some social service. Together with that, I was thinking because I always do. So then I thought, why not just make it like Anukase itself? It's like a continuous thing. And why I choose grocery was if they have no money to pay for education, there is no problem actually in their family. If they have no work, they can manage if they have it. But if you have no food at home, and a person is actually asking you, can you give me grocery? I'm struggling. Only in a very desperate situation, somebody will come and ask you, can you give me food? Ask you money or something. They are not that desperate. Money to pay something is not that desperate. But if a family is coming to ask for a grocery or food, which I mean, that means they are going through something. That's why I decided to give grocery or meals actually. I don't give any cash. So that is more, and it's not just me, there's few of us working on this project. And now what we are doing is my yoga school, right? So we are going to we are registering under the ROS more big so that we can help more people under the yoga school. So we are working on that still. Of course, like I say, whatever we do is to serve the humanity at the end of the day.
Yes.
So in whichever way we can, we try to.
Nice. Yeah, very beautiful work that you are doing. And is Anukase accepting public donations or?
Yeah, we do accept public donation. When we were not collaborating, we still receiving public donation. Once we register formally, when we have the account number, then we will open up even bigger. Now I'm just, because it's a private account, so I just share it to friends and family members. Then I don't have receipt and everything you give them, right? Yeah,
Understand.
it's a small project for now.
Okay. When there's the public donation link and everything, do share it to me, then I can update this YouTube video and then people can access it to give donations in the future. That would be lovely. And I is there anything you'd like to ask me before we close the session?
No, I think just thank you, Ponyo. It's so nice that we are discussing something. Like I say, it's not medical related. Every time they see two doctors means we will be talking about medicine. For the first time, I'm talking something that is something that I like to talk about, which is spirituality. And like I said, it's meant for us to. It was supposed to be that day, and my father was admitted ICU. Maybe these past 3 days gave me more. Since that incident, it gives me more lessons and experience to talk. Give me a gap so that today maybe I can more wiser.
Yeah, it's mysterious. Divine providence works in magical ways. And with that, I'd like to thank for hopping on the Holistic Woman podcast. Definitely learn a lot of wisdom from her. And we'll see you guys maybe in a future podcast. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. on you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe, like and bell button to stay updated in our latest videos. Thank you.